Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in our guest blog on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is Isabelle Fish, founder of The Club, a collective of female modern-day Medicis championing crafts for future generations. She's also the curator for women-only trips around the world with a focus on art and culture. And Isabelle is actually joining us today on one of her travel trips in France. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Trish. Thank you for having me.
You know, Isabelle, I really admire what you do because being someone who also appreciates the arts and is a collector of crafts and things of that nature, I know that we've all been sort of changing our business model, so to speak. And you've done a really amazing pivot in the last few years, championing The Club. So tell us how that came about.
I think that it came about, first is the instinct of the entrepreneur to survive. Before March 2020, I was a travel business and an event business around craft, fine craftsmanship. And when the program for 2020 had to be canceled because of the pandemic, I immediately flipped to digital and did all my events online. We even did digital travel. We did a 5-day trip of the galleries that were showing at Collect, which is a major art fair in London. And they are all live events. So the gallerists invited us in their space online, and I had a group of travelers, 15 women from, I think we had 5 different countries. And then we did a 3-day trip on Zoom again to Italy, and we visited an artist that does Maiolica, another artist who is a ceramicist. We went to Venice, and it is just, it was just carrying on my passion. Nothing was going to stop me. And my passion is to talk about the makers, about the craft. It's to share their stories, to support and nurture them and help them in their business. And I thought, we can't travel in person, but we have this amazing technology. Let's use it. So that's how it came about. And over the course of the first, I think, 8 months of the pandemic, I did 1 interview a week and trips and workshops, all online, all live. And I suddenly realized that there was a need for community there, because after each event and interview, I would receive the most incredible emails and messages saying, these conversations really are a lifeline for me. They enable me to forget that I am confined at home. My children are not here, or I can't go to the office, or I'm feeling very isolated. And these conversations, which I always do not as a webinar where you can't see the audience, but the audience can see each other. And we always logged on 10 minutes before the conversation started, and the women could see each other and recognize each other. They had never met, and they were in different countries, but suddenly there was this community. And I thought, we should really link this community of women together. And that's when I decided to create The Club. And that was in September 2020.
So it is a membership club, correct? So you pay a membership and you have an opportunity then to link into all of these wonderful events, which obviously you're hosting both virtual and live.
That's right. So it is a membership. We have 3 different levels of membership. The benefits are, so the events that I organize are open to everybody. You don't have to be a club member to come on trip or to come to the tours, whether they are digital or in person. But as a member, you receive a discount. And then you also have access to subscriptions to craft specialized magazines, some in textile, others in more varied craft. And it's very much, we approach craft as patrons, as supporters, but also as makers. A lot of the members are extraordinarily competent at all sorts of crafts, and that's when the workshops come in. And we are starting now. We are 73 or 74 members from 4 different countries. And we are starting to have enough heft that I'm working on a true involvement with the craft community, where there will be a specific club project to support a specific artist and maker. And that is in the works.
So how do you actually make the connections with the individual makers? Because I know that one of the things that must be a challenge, because we would love to be traveling 247 if we could and meeting all these wonderful people, but how do you actually connect with some of these really artistic and creative folks?
So, I've been at it for 10 years, because before doing the travel and the clubs, I had a contemporary jewelry gallery. And I do an enormous amount of research, actually 2-3 hours a day. I do my research.
Oh.
And, one artist will send you to the next. And people are starting to know me. They appreciate what I do, and they send me from one to the next. And also, I have to tell you that I just do a lot of cold calling. I decided that I had nothing to lose. And when I see someone who's interesting, or an organization that I'm interested in, I just send an email, I explain what I do. And I have to say that I've never had a no. I've had maybe no answer, but I've never had a no.
That's a really wonderful statement, because, one of the things that we often do is we forget that all you need to do sometimes is ask.
Yes.
And even though, we don't like cold calling, there are ways in which, as you well know, that we can sort of get around that cold call experience by warming things up a little bit with an email and introducing people to your website and all of those sorts of things before we actually connect, perhaps through a conversation. But kudos to you, because, that's a really difficult thing to do. Lots of us, as you have mentioned, have been kind of cocooning, for the last few years, right? We found business is very difficult. Folks have been finding it, difficult to pivot. And I love the fact that you just changed the dynamic and moved to a digital platform. How did you manage to do that without experience in the digital space? Because I'm sure lots of our viewing and listening audience are saying, really? How did you go from live to digital? Like, how did you learn all that stuff?
I made a lot of mistakes.
Trial and error, right?
But really, that's what it is. And I think that there's an enormous amount of resource online. I think that if you have an idea, chances are you're not the only one to have this idea. Just put it on Google, and you're going to find all sorts of, resource, whether it's a blog or even someone that you see who's done something similar to what you want to do. Just call them and say, look, this is what I'd like to do. What I have found is that COVID has made people much more generous and much more open to actually being contacted out of the blue. I have to say that I pick up the phone a lot, and people are so stunned. They're so surprised that actually the phone rings and there is a real human who wants to have a conversation, that they open to that. But I think it's a lot of work. I mean, you have to do your homework, you have to do your research, but keep it simple. Only do one thing and do it very well. Zoom is there, or live Instagram or Facebook, or everybody now has a live stream, and find the platform that works for you and just stick to it. That's really what it is.
Well, kudos to you for taking the leap of faith, because I know that one of the things that when I started my podcast, very similar to you, you have that little bit, you're paralyzed a little bit with fear, because you think, oh, geez, if I make a mistake, people are going to think I'm not a professional, or, I don't care, or whatever. But you're absolutely right. I think that COVID has given us a little more grace, perhaps, and we're a little bit more forgiving if we see that folks are a little stumbling along. We try to help one another. In the travel part of your business, I mean, the world is now starting to open up, thankfully, and it looks like we're going to be going back to some sort of sense of normalcy. So and I know you do small groups, small group trips. I mean, it's not like we have, 50 or 60 people. You want to make that personal connection. So how do folks actually find out what types of groups that you're going to be offering or trips that you're offering in the near future in order for them to make that connection? Do I have to go with a friend? Can I, may I attend on my own?
Absolutely. So the groups are maximum 10 guests, and it's women only, and anybody who identifies as a woman. The reason why I do that is because it was just too complicated to mix the genders. The dynamics are very different, and from a logistics point of view, it's really too complicated. Anybody can come. You can come with a friend. You can come solo. We have a lot of guests who were traveling solo, and it was their first, venture solo on a trip. And I'm very proud to say that they always told me they felt very welcome and surrounded and connected. It's difficult to travel by yourself as a woman. So I'm very mindful of that. The community aspect of my business is very important to me, whether it's on the guest side or on the artist side. So the trips are very much organized on that basis. And they are on the website, and you can contact me. We create these beautiful brochures, and we send the brochures. I'm always available for questions. And then we work with a fantastic Toronto travel agent, woman-owned, and then the travel agent will take care of everything. So I do the itinerary, every location is checked, and then the travel agent does the logistics, it works really well.
So do you have an opportunity? So say I'm interested in, obviously I'm a woman interested in attending one of your events. So how do you connect all these 10 women before you travel, so that you at least have a chance to say, oh, hi, I'm Trish, and you get to say, hi, I'm Isabelle. And, we can learn a little bit about each other before we venture on this cross-country trip?
We do, absolutely. And we have a whole sequence. First, I have a conversation with the travelers, and I don't vet the guests, but it's important that the dynamic of the group be consistent.
Right.
And they are also, it's not for everybody, so you get a sense of that. And I have to say, I've never had to say no to anybody so far. And then we organize 2 calls where everybody can meet each other. They can ask questions. Sometimes I've put an activity in the itinerary and I can sense that the group is not really interested. So I will rework the itinerary to suit the group. We also send in advance a reading list. So when you travel, you already have some knowledge, which enhances the experience and the appreciation for what you're seeing. And very often the guests send me ideas and so it's a very collaborative process. It's not a democracy, so I make the decisions.
Oh, I love that. That's a good thing, actually.
It is. But it's very collaborative. And actually, in every group, friendships were formed and carried on after, which is wonderful. And they have dinner. And I'm, sometimes they tell me, why don't you join us? But often they don't. And often, the guests come from different countries. We meet at the hotel where we start the trip. And it's international network. It's wonderful.
Well, it sounds absolutely fantastic. And I must admit, I definitely am going, as an individual, I'm going to seek out attending one of your travel trips, because I think when we had originally spoken, you're one of the first 100 folks who participated in the Share Your Stories initiative. So I thank you for that. And I know that at one time we were going to try to make a connection through the trip. So I'm definitely going to visit your website and see what trips you have coming up, because I would definitely love to join you. So one of the things that we do in the guest blog, Isabelle, is we ask folks to share their 3 words of advice. Now, you were very kind and you shared 4. So I'm going to ask you to give us an update on your words, which are resilience, optimism, support, and patience.
So I'll start with optimism, because I'm a consummate optimist, and I really believe in the theory of the silver lining. There is always something good that comes from, a hardship or a trial. So every morning, wake up and just, expect that something good is going to happen to you today. So that would be my first thought. Resilience. I was extremely privileged, actually. I was thinking about it 2 days ago. I interviewed 2 women. They were live from Beirut in Lebanon. And one is a ceramicist. The other one is a curator, gallery owner. And if you know a little bit about Lebanon, it's a country that has been in conflict for 100 and 200 years, whatever it is. I mean, it is unfathomable that you can carry on as an artist to produce beauty and to put it out in your community and to support your community that way. And these women do it with grace and with terrific optimism and resilience. When the explosion happened in August, both their homes, their galleries, their studios were totally destroyed, and they've rebuilt it. And one of them is going to be in London. I'm going to see her in London next week during Collect Art Fair. So I think resilience, the artists have taught me that. Support, as I mentioned earlier, the community element of the business is important. We have to look after each other. Mm-hmm. And particularly now, and it's very much at the root of why I created the club. It's to support the women who have been amazing at following and supporting my business for 11 years now. And it's amazing. And I actually, every week, I connect with 2 or 3 members. If I haven't heard from them, for a month or so, they get a little email. I just check in, making sure you're okay. Invariably, they're just too busy, but that's fine, Mm-hmm. And what is the 4th word?
The patience. 4th word was patience. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I don't have a lot of it.
Well, we have that in common too.
It's a work in process, I would say.
Very true. Very true. Well, I must say, Isabelle, you are so absolutely inspirational, not only to myself, but to our audience, because not only do I really resonate with your 4 words of advice, but I really and truly appreciate your business model and the fact that you're taking something that we tend to, sometimes folks in the craft world struggle with, getting heard and sharing their wonderful gifts. And I really commend you for taking that leap of faith and giving them an opportunity to put them on the global stage. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I mean, I'm what you're doing is also incredibly inspirational, because you're giving also a platform to share our story and to connect with a community that you have built from scratch. So that's amazing too. So thank you so much for including me.
Thank you, Isabelle. And to you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us in this edition of Keeping It Real, where we introduced you to the person behind the logo. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.